Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic Live post game show and podcast where we recap, dissect, and we have some fun talking about the latest Raptors game you just finished watching. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi. I'm here with my co host, Keon Haddad. And tonight, your Raptors defeated the Miami Heat 106-92, bringing the Raptors record. And yes, Raptors fans, you heard this right. I can finally say this to perfectly even at 38 wins and 38 losses on the NBA season. They are 12-8 in their last 20 regular season games and a very impressive 26-14 at home in the Scotiabank Arena. Um, Keon, this was a homecoming for none other than the GOAT, the greatest Raptor of all time, Kyle Lowry. We also, if you haven't noticed here for our live watchers, we do have Zorar Siddiqui, who did join us, the one of the founding fathers of Raptors Republic, one of the Albus Dumbledores of Raptors Republic. He's of course going to join us on the Kyle Lowry, reunion game. Of course, we have to bring Zorar for this one. What did you guys think? I'll start with you, Zorar. What did you think about watching the game, watching Kyle Lowry come back? Obviously, a great storyline with that. Pretty low scoring game for NBA standards, 106-92. Miami just struggled to score all night. Bunch of guys for them struggled, maybe save for Tyler Herro. What did you think overall about the game? What did you like? Anything you wanted to point out?
Well, it wasn't a great homecoming for Kyle Lowry. Tell you that
Yeah.
much. When the Heat made that run at the end there, when they got it down to 10 with like a minute 30 left, I think, and they had 4 shots to cut it down to 7, and they missed 4 wide open threes. And the last of those threes was Lowry. So I for sure thought when the ball went over to him, I thought this guy's going to hit this one for sure. He's had a terrible game. Turnovers, trying to force things, missing layups, all that stuff. It was like the bad Lowry. Remember when people used to get upset at Lowry sometimes? This was that Lowry we saw tonight. And you kind of saw like why he's coming off the bench for the Heat. But, all that notwithstanding, the Raptors look great. Honestly, that was one of the best games that I've seen them play. Like aggressive, attacking the rim, committed to the defensive rebounds. I don't know what the defensive rebounding numbers were, but they looked like they were not conceding too many offensive rebounds. Just like a lot of deflections, which I know Nick Nurse loves. Even like late in the game, I think Doughton had a pretty nice deflection there after Miami got the offensive rebound. So just an all-out effort by the Raptors. And this is the Raptors team that I think a lot of people feel can make a respectable playoff push. I'm not going to say they're going to win a series, but can make a respectable playoff push. I thought it was great. And I have nothing really, like negative to say about the Raptors for this game.
Yeah. Keon, the Raptors are on a 3-game winning streak after the disastrous loss from, we all remember that Indiana game, Andrew Nembhard. Another homecoming, funny enough. This kid, though, is from Aurora, Ontario. But since then, like I said, the Raptors have won 3 straight. Detroit, somebody in between, and Miami. Who am I forgetting? There's a team. Washington, the Wizards, the most boring team in the NBA. Keon, what did you think? So far, the Raptors brought momentum into this game. The Miami Heat did not have Jimmy Butler in this game, which obviously accentuated the fact that they cannot score the ball. Even really with Jimmy Butler, they struggled to score the ball this season. This just looked much worse. A team in the NBA in the year 2023 scoring 92 points is an abomination. What did you think about Miami, the way they played, and of course the way Toronto played as well?
Well, at first, it looked a little bit shaky. They were down something like 14-2, 10-point deficit to start. They started 0 for 9 from 3, but they kept with it, and their game isn't centered around the 3-point ball. And after they started to realize that, they started attacking the paint more. It kind of felt like the Raptors really took control of this one, especially at halftime. There was a huge run out of the halftime break. But, man, Miami just cannot score the basketball at all, really. It was a struggle. They had to go to Duncan Robinson at late in this game, and he was kind of giving them a little bit of a spark. They don't scratch 95 or 100. It's tough for them. And I will say this. It's kind of – I don't want to say anything, but it's looking like the Heat might be the opponent for the Raptors in a possible play-in game. And if we get anything like that tonight, then I'm pretty excited the Raptors might be getting the 7th seed, which I think is a huge difference playing the Celtics compared to the Bucks. But this showed a lot, especially with the Raptors' ability to compete with the Heat. We knew it was going to be low scoring. We knew it was going to be scrappy, but they just outworked the Heat, and then they just played better all around. Anunoby was great. Scotty was really, really great tonight. Just career high 12 assists tonight, and that's just huge. We need him at his potential if the Raptors want to make any noise in the playoffs so they can make it there. So that's very encouraging. Pascal is very encouraging. Just a good all around team win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Scotty Barnes particularly, especially in the first half, I think he had his best half of the season, and then just coupled it off with the second half that was great as well. He didn't really put a foot wrong that I thought in the second half. A great overall game. He's obviously a plus 14 in this game. 22 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds, 10 for 16 from the field. Finally, we see a hyper efficient game from Scotty Barnes, which is great to see. His confidence looked like it was there. And this is, I think, a very important thing for the Raptors, because all season long, you've been giving those developmental reps and sometimes sacrificing some really good, effective offensive possessions to give guys like Precious Achiuwa and Scotty Barnes those offensive reps, those developmental reps that we've talked about all season long. And now we're starting to see, as the season wanes on, Scotty Barnes is finally coming into his own, and he's gathering momentum for a possible playoff push that the Raptors want to make. Now, of course, we can't get ahead of ourselves, right? The Raptors season thus far has been an absolute roller coaster. It's been up, down, up, down, up, down, win streak, losing streak, win one, lose one. We've seen everything, right? We've seen them lose to some of the worst teams in the league. We've seen them beat some of the best teams in the league. In Denver, just I think a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So this team has been everywhere, right? And I think it goes back to what I said a couple shows ago about the Toronto Raptors being the epitome of an average NBA team. We've seen everything across the board, every single result possible for this team. And I think it's very important that as the season comes to an end, you have a team in Miami that's just right there with you. Miami has 40 wins and 36 losses on the season, right? The Raptors are at 38 wins, right? And now you have 4 games, I believe 4 games remaining, if my math is correct. Is it 4 games or 6 games remaining? Six games remaining on the NBA season. And these are the teams you got to beat. You beat the Wizards, who are right there with you. You beat Miami, who was right there with you. You beat a team that you had to beat in the Detroit Pistons, who, let's face it, guys, watching the Raptors the last 3-4 years with Dwayne Casey at the helm of the Pistons, you can't really go into that game saying, hey, the Raptors are guaranteed a win here. So you're on a 3-game winning streak, and I feel like you've gathered the momentum, and now the real stretch run begins, because the next game's Philly, right? And you got Philly, I think, on Friday night. So the Raptors have 2 full days of rest. So you use this game kind of as a springboard, go into Philly, and that's where you really make a statement game. But just going back into this game, guys, Scotty Barnes, we talked about it. If this wasn't his best game this season, I'd struggle, honestly, to find another one. OG Anunoby with a fantastic game as well. He led the Raptors plus 17 in the plus-minus department, 22 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, an efficient night from him. And then Pascal Siakam, I mean, that's the Pascal we've really seen all season, save for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the last 3-4 weeks that we've seen of Pascal. But now we're starting to see him heat up a little more, which is great. Between those 3 guys, Zarar, and considering all the circumstances heading into this game, Jimmy Butler, like I said, wasn't going to be there. Who were you most impressed with between those 3 guys?
I mean, I thought, those are the obvious ones, but I thought Precious hitting 2 big threes in the fourth quarter to kind of bail out possession threes when Miami was making that run. I thought those were big, big shots. And it was funny because I was watching this game on this game was on U.S. national TV on TNT. So Nick Nurse was interviewed, I think, before between the third and fourth quarter break, and he actually, when those interviews end, usually the coach just wants to get the hell out of there. Like they're like, okay, it's like a pop, like, oh yeah, okay, see you later. And Nick Nurse actually stuck around longer than the interviewer wanted him to stick around, only so he could say, I really hope you make a couple of threes in the fourth quarter. And lo and behold, like that was a little shtick in the fourth quarter with the TNT commentators because Precious made those 2 threes. And sorry, and I thought held the heat at bay. But that schedule that you alluded to there in your preamble, this is a tough one. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough. Boston twice. You got Milwaukee. You got Philly. And you have Charlotte, I think, twice in there.
And let me say this about Charlotte.
They beat the Mavericks twice.
They beat the Mavericks twice, and they have the best defensive rating in the NBA since All-Star Weekend. So that's not a game that I'm going, yeah, 2 guaranteed wins. This isn't the same Raptors team, right, as previous seasons. So
no,
yeah, for sure.
So this little precarious, like I'm looking at the standings right now, we're like a game and a half up on Chicago. I guess Washington's sort of out of it now. It's between really. It's just jostling for position between 7 to 10. So the Raptors are going to make the play, and let's be serious here. It's a question of positioning, but you can see the Raptors losing a majority of the games down the stretch here. So I wouldn't be shocked for us to kind of slide down the standings even below Atlanta if things go south.
Yeah, Keon, I'm going to ask you, Zarar. I'm going to ask you, the same question I asked Zarar. Out of those 3 guys we mentioned, Scotty Barnes, OG, Pascal, and is there really anyone else that you want to mention from this game that you were super impressed with? You could even say Precious as well, because I know Precious. Just last week he was a DNP for a couple games, so this is a big bounce back game for him as well.
No, I was again super impressed with Scotty. I feel like he's showing the flashes of potential that just got us so excited last season and at times this season that made people think that we shouldn't trade this guy for Kevin Durant. Like these are the things that we see when he's on the basketball court. Just his vision for the game, his energy, all like piled with his talent and skill. Super athletic. Just he can do it all. And like throughout the season, there's been criticisms of him. He started off a little bit of a sophomore slump. But just seeing these flashes and these big games, and he'll always be there when it matters, because like we've seen it all season in the fourth quarter. He's always showed up. He's always put a little extra in that. And now that these games are really starting to matter and really starting to come down to the wire, he's putting on a show on national TV in the U.S. No matter the less. 22 and 12. That's a career high assist. I said before. I was super impressed, and he was kind of guarding today. I know Zarar is not a fan of his defense, but he was guarding much better today than we've seen all season.
I'll offer a slight criticism of Scotty Barnes, okay, because you guys are way too positive. He tends to take the shots. He tends to take some early threes, I find, in transition, and he's not a great 3-point shooter, so he can be baited into some poor shots. And he did that in the first half a couple times, and and he had a great game, obviously. But I'd say if there's one room for improvement, is to be a little bit more cognizant of his shot selection, especially on the break. Now, I will argue against my own point and say when he did take them, there were usually rebounders under the rim. So if you are going to take a quick shot and you got a couple of your bigs underneath there, maybe it's not as bad of a shot, but he can be baited there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. I think that just comes with. I think one thing that Scotty, it's like he kind of struggles with sometimes, especially. I don't think the game ever moves too fast for him. I think he's very, very smart. When you watch Scotty, it's just sometimes you just think like he's all of the little movements he makes, whether it's in a post up, in transition, his ability to just know where every single player is on the court. The little quick twitch passing he does. He has these inherent basketball skills that you cannot take away from him. These attributes where you go, this kid was born to play basketball, but he's still extremely young. Like the kid only played 1 year in college, played in Florida State. just a single year in the NBA. He did win Rookie of the Year, right? And whenever you win Rookie of the Year, the expectations are incredibly high. Came into this year, it's been a little up and down, right? I think more good than bad for Scotty Barnes, but I think it's been a little bit up and down. Some things that we've pointed out on this show, particularly, his effort has been up and down. Defensively, he's been up and down, and unfortunately, defensively, it's been more down than up. But again, offensively, it looks like he's making strides, and I think that's the thing you kind of want to take into the postseason, right, or into the play-in, whichever one it is. Just a quick update: the Atlanta Hawks just defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers 120-118. That one went down to the wire.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell 44 points. Unfortunate.
44 points, but missed the game-winning three.
The game-winning
Two
three,
game-winning
exactly.
threes.
Two game-winning threes. Yeah.
Yeah. Sucks. Cleveland can't even get that done for the Raptors.
You know, so how with Scotty, it's funny because like the criticisms that are offered of his season this year, Scotty's not he's not the type of rookie like a guard who can just who will just dominate the ball and even be great on a bad team. He is still a pretty team-oriented player. So if you have a team that's struggling or having a bad season, you can still find some guys who can still have great seasons because they prioritize their own offense a lot, and you'll see him you'll see them have a great season even though the team's bad. Scotty's not the type of guy who can have that sort of a season. His success is still a function of how good the team is. So if the team's not playing well, Scotty's not going to be playing well. I don't think he can independently have a great season while the rest of the team is kind of finding its way because he is so team-oriented. That's his personality, or that's the way he approaches the game. So, his struggles this year defensively, for sure, he had a stretch there where he just wasn't paying a lot of attention. But overall, I think this is standard fare for a sophomore season for a rookie, for a second-year player.
For a second-year player, definitely. And I think that's what we have to go back on for Scotty Barnes. And I think I'm going to say it again, the most positive thing you can take from Scotty, OG, Pascal, who's starting to heat up, is that the Raptors are picking the right time to heat up on a player-to-player level, right? I was really worried. I'm not going to lie to you, Keon and Zarar. I was really worried about Pascal Siakam this last month or so because I felt like we were seeing that fatigue start to set in. Pascal Siakam did a whole lot of carrying from October all the way to the end of the winter. Right? Did a whole lot of carrying. I mean, if you ask me, Zarar, was there any Raptor
fatigue
in the first half of the season?
I don't buy this fatigue argument.
Yeah,
fatigue is, I think, who was the other guy? I don't know, some NBA player went on. I saw it on a little interview. Fatigue is for the guy who works the Sobeys night shift, stacking the shelves between 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. That's fatigue. You playing 2 games back to back, and traveling for a private jet and all that is not fatigue to me. Yeah, I get that they get exhausted.
If we're talking about NBA standards, those are Fred VanVleet, middle of the season, shooting damn near sub 35% from the field. OG Anunoby was not shooting well in the first half of the season. Scotty Barnes wasn't shooting well. Gary Trent Jr. wasn't to his standards, right?
Why do you think that's fatigue?
No, I'm saying because of those things, Pascal Siakam had to take a larger role offensively, right? Than I think that he was even expecting to take early on in the season. Nobody would have went into the season. I didn't go into the season, or I said this on multiple shows. This is probably the worst take I've had in ever, maybe. I thought the Raptors were going to have 50 wins this season, right? I thought they were going to build off of last season, and they didn't. And I thought certain guys were going to take a leap, and I thought we may see the first ever, I was tricking myself into thinking we may see the first ever, close to an all-star season for Gary Trent Jr. We might see a massive leap from him. Fred VanVleet's going to be damn near all-star level. Pascal Siakam's going to be all NBA, and it all fell apart.
I'm sorry. Your fantasies did not come true. The fact of life met your fantasies. That's all that happened.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But the one thing looking back on this season, and the season's not over yet, that I can say is that Pascal Siakam, I think, kept his bargain this season. He kept his part of the bargain. And like I said, it's important for all those guys to go in hot, but the season's not over, Zorar. Like you said, Boston's coming up, Milwaukee's coming up. A surprisingly strong defensive team all of a sudden in the Charlotte Hornets is coming up. So the Raptors have a lot to work on. We'll see. We'll really see how this goes because NBA wide, the Raptors are not known as an offensive juggernaut.
Okay,
se,
let's
right?
let's put our Sahal, like your 55 win fantasy did not work out.
50.
Well,
Don't put some sauce on it, Zorar.
Sure. I had a strong 46 at the start of the season, and I think I'm gonna probably nail that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe if we do well.
Not nailing
but let's now it is what it is. We're here now. Let's say whatever the season ends, we match up against, I don't know, like if you look at the standings, if the playoffs, depending on how the play-in goes, let's say we face the Celtics, right? What are you thinking in a Raptors versus Celtics rematch? Like, what's your spidey senses telling you now? Let's start with Kian. Kian, where will you go first on that?
Celtics in 5, pretty easily. I think they've always matched up well against us, played well against them. We're talking about the rematch. The last time we played them, it went to 7, but real fans know that it should not have went 7. A lot went right for us that series. So
He's
Celtics
right,
in 5.
Yeah. I would probably say Celtics in 5 is probably where I'm leaning because I think the Raptors would steal 1 somewhere and it'd likely be at home. Celtics just have an off night or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was Celtics in 4. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, so what are we like? What's our best case scenario for the season? Like, what is the ideal outcome for us? Like, what makes us happy at the end of the year? So if you're saying we're not going to beat the Celtics, I'm guessing you also think we're not going to beat Milwaukee, unless you think we can.
No, we're gonna get destroyed. I think by both teams.
Okay, so we gotta option 1 is lose in 5, and option 2 is get destroyed. Okay,
Option 3 is Philly gets the 2 seed and we 4-6.
And we 4. Oh yeah, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen.
It was a chance for a little bit there, but they've fallen a little bit.
Okay. So what's our Sahal? What's our ideal outcome for the season? What's the best the Raptors can do if they make the postseason?
I'm glad you said if they made the postseason because they're in too deep now. There's no backing out of this whole play-in path that they're on right now at the minimum.
We're talking best case scenario for the season.
Best case scenario. I mean, you got to hope that if they're in the play-in, they win that, right? You get into the playoffs. You probably limp into the playoffs because I don't know if the Raptors are really drastically better than the Hawks or the Bulls or the Heat. I know they just beat the Heat, beat them comfortably. But again, the Heat are missing their best player by far on that team in Jimmy Butler. I think you win. You get through the play-in. You go up against one of the juggernauts in Milwaukee or the Celtics. And I think the absolute best possible scenario is 6 games for either team. It's a 6-game series. I think that's the best. I think you just have to look competitive. I think that's the main thing I'd be looking for on a personal note. If you go into the playoffs and you get wiped clean 4 games, then you're gonna start hearing chatter and you're gonna start hearing things about Nick Nurse and the bench needs to change, and maybe we need to get rid of this guy on the starting lineup and that guy. So I just want them to look competitive because if they look competitive versus one of the best teams in the league, I'll be.
Is that a bad thing though?
What
is it a bad thing if they get clean sweep and we decide we have to make some changes?
Oh, we got a tank guy here.
I'm just saying.
Is Kian?
No. But maybe because what's the ceiling of this team the next 2 years?
I think things are going to change regardless. I think if you lose in 6 and you look competitive, I think something's going to change. And I'm not saying that Nick Nurse is going to get fired. I'm not saying OG Anunoby is going to get traded or Gary. Something's going to change. I doubt they go back into the next season with the absolute same exact team. I don't see that happening. I think the only givens that we can say for sure, Zorar and Keon, going into the offseason is Jakob Poeltl's likely getting re-signed.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you would think that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster want to re-sign Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what's OG Anunoby's future is. I don't know what Nick Nurse's future is if they flame out of the playoffs. I don't know.
I see. I'm with Minhas here. That was my goal at the start of the year. I thought progress this year meant we go one step further than last year. And last year was losing 6 games. So this year I was hoping that we sneak out a playoff win. But it doesn't really look like that's on the cards unless you're super optimistic. So to me, progress is to, I think you said it, is to be extremely competitive in every game. I thought even though we took Philly to 6 games last year, as Keon said, real fans know we were down 3-0 in that series. And then they
twice,
3
times all series.
And then in game 6, we got just dusted, right? Even though we went to 6, it was not a great 6. So this year, I think we just have to, even if we just go 6, we got to be like super competitive. And the team that beats us still talks about us even in the second round type 6. So I think that's what the season is about. I thought the franchise sort of changed direction midway through the season with the Pirtle signing. So I think this season was a pivot in a different direction, and you have to look at it that way. I think there's something that comes out of this season. It's the realization that, the 6-9 thing, good try, maybe go back to some more traditional basketball and kind of reorient yourself next year and deal with your free agents. So to me, this season was always a development season, but there's an element of like sort of saving some face at the end of the season by having a competitive playoff push.
I will say this too, real quick. I feel like we can see progress in the first round in a 5 or 6 game series if we just see individual improvements from players. For example, if we play Boston and Pascal, since Kawhi's left, has struggled in the playoffs, that's well known. If he comes back against the Celtics and has a similar series to the first time he played the Celtics, then that's something that's concerning. But if he can improve and really be the number one for our team in the playoffs and we can be competitive with him, then I feel like that could be a somewhat of a successful season and progress, because that gives you something to build on.
I'll add to that point, man. One more thing I'll add to that is that historically, if we play the Celtics, that is, historically, the Raptors and particularly Fred VanVleet have struggled against the Celtics, especially when they put Jason Tatum on them. The length really bothers them. It would be interesting to see what Nurse's response is on how he deals with Tatum and Fred VanVleet and how he maneuvers his roster so that he gets the most out of his roster against a Celtic team that really doesn't really hide or tries to kind of fool you into, or tricking you into thinking what they're doing. What they do is pretty obvious. They put size on our wings. They force us to make passes that we have difficulty making. They're aggressive with Siakam through Smart. It's the same old playbook that they've done for the last 3 years. It would be interesting to see what does Nurse do for, again, against, is it the same old thing he'll try again and fail again? Or does he have something up his sleeve that maybe he can counter the Celtics with? I think that would be something interesting to watch if we make the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Keon made a really good point. You're looking for the individual things as well. And I think beyond Pascal Siakam, you want to see something from, I think this, I mean, if the front office was even thinking about moving OG at the trade deadline, this playoffs might be OG's opportunity to go, you know what, like, I'm here to stay. And when the time comes, I'm ready for that money, right? Like I'm fully invested into this team, and I've proved that I can play in the playoffs, because I feel like OG is the one player on this team where he gets saddled with all these weird injuries at the worst times throughout the season. He's missed playoff games. He missed that playoff run where the Raptors went on the championship run. OG has a lot to prove. Each of these guys have a lot to prove. Fred VanVleet is in a contract year. If he flames out, this is it. I mean, most Raptors fans are going to go, you know what? Like, you had a down season. You got really hot in the last 2 months of the season. We loved you for that. But to be quite honest, Fred, playoffs didn't look great. And then you look at Scotty as well. Scotty's like the one beaming light. He's like the one guy where it's almost sacrilege as a Raptors fan to go, well, we should get rid of that guy. Nobody says that about Scotty Barnes, right? Like nobody says that. So Scotty Barnes is the one guy where you go, okay, if he has a great playoff performance, this is something we can truly, truly build on, right? You don't want to just see great regular season performances and then Scotty Barnes goes missing in the playoffs. So I think each of these guys have a lot to prove. Gary Trent Jr. as well. And then the bench, right? I mean, I'm not expecting much from the bench. I rarely expect much from them in the regular season, but you're 100% right, Keon. From an individual standpoint, all of these guys have something to prove 100%. We're going to do a quick ad read for one of our best sponsors and partners on the show, Manscaped. And you guys can join the 2 million men worldwide, including myself and Zarar, and not Keon, who still hasn't received his Manscaped shipment, and I don't know why. You can use the right tools for the job, because when it comes to those two things down there,
you can share with Oren.
Them. You do not want to take any chances. Also, if you're skin sensitive like myself, Manscaped has skincare products now, all infused with natural ingredients. Go to manscaped.com. Check out their new lawnmower 4.0. Great. I use their body scrubber, like the thing where you put when you take a shower, and it's really cool. You guys should check it out. I don't know the exact name for it. I probably should.
Trimming a hedge.
But no matter what you purchase, whether it's $10, $50 or more, you can receive free shipping only with our show's promo code WRAPUP. That's RAPUP, WRAPUP, RAPUP, for 20% off and free shipping nationwide on your entire order. Visit manscaped.com and use the code WRAPUP to receive 20% off and free shipping.
No one more passionate than Sahal about Manscaped.
Yeah, I mean, I cut it down like 80% because certain people on this show didn't like my 2-minute ad reads.
Is this true? Is this true? Oren started the trade Scotty for KD bandwagon.
I don't know. If you go back to the shows, me and Oren were like fully on the go get KD no matter what. But
no matter what.
Oren was really behind it. I mean, I was too. There's a lot of people behind it. I know people in like Toronto media that were like all over that, but they just couldn't say it, which just sucks for them. But yeah, I mean, I don't really want to go back to that, Zarar. That's just gives me.
I'm just some guy wrote it on the chat, so I just thought maybe it's true. All right.
Yeah, just knowing we had a chance to get one of the best players on the planet just really hurts my feelings. But
hey, what do you guys? So what do you think of Hurtle's defensive work today?
I actually wanted to mention that because Bam's really struggled tonight. Bam Adebayo, I mean, I'm not saying he's a world beater offensively by any stretch of the imagination, but he went 7 for 18. He made his last 2 shots in this game. So 21 points. Yeah, you can look at the box score and go, well, Bam had 21 points and 12 rebounds. That's a pretty good game. Well, he also shot under 40%, right? Like that's not that great for Bam. So Jakob Poeltl for me has just been a constant since the All-Star break, since the trade deadline. He's proved that he is a guy that needs to come back no matter what for this team. And they plugged that hole. And it sucks, Zarar, that we're going into another offseason with the same, we need backup PG. We need a backup PG need, which sucks. We thought Will Barton was going to kind of fill that gap since the buyout deadline. He hasn't. The Raptors have pivoted back to Malachi Flynn, pivoted to Jeff Dowtin Jr., who has been playing really well. Got to give Jeff Dowtin some credit.
I like him. I like him over Barton any day.
Yeah, I like him a lot. So, yeah, I mean, it's Jakob Poeltl's just doing Jakob Poeltl things. I don't know what else to say. He's probably been the most consistent Raptor since he joined them.
You know, like Adebayo does not have he doesn't really stretch the floor. So if we play Miami and it's Poeltl versus Adebayo, Bam operates in an area offensively where Poeltl is relatively comfortable defending. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really take him too far out at the 3-point line where he has to sort of kind of move his feet as well. Poeltl did really well, keep putting his not jumping, not picking up too many fouls, despite trying to be tempted with pump fakes. I think he did well to not jump, generally speaking, today. Both feet on the ground, hands up, just smart interior movement with his feet, especially when Miami was driving with the ball and got into the lane. It's very tempting at that point to try to swat the ball or try to make a highlight play. I thought he held his position really well. And he did well in keeping two things in mind. One, that he's guarding Bam. At the second, he's also providing help. And in those 50-50 situations where you got to figure out which way you're going to go, I thought he made the right calls tonight. And if Miami is the team we face in the play-in, and the Bam Pirtle matchup happens, I think Raptor fans have something, they should feel positive about that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because Bam's not your Karl Anthony Towns, or even beyond that. Hypothetically, if the Raptors do get past the Miami Heat and you go up against a Brook Lopez who can really stretch the floor, Jakob Poeltl doesn't have to guard Brook Lopez all the way, or he does have to guard Brook Lopez all the way out there. Doesn't have to do that for Bam, right? So,
I didn't say this, by the way. Bam is nobody's arguing who's better. Bam is a clear-cut better player.
Yeah,
nobody's saying otherwise. I'm just saying that defensively, he played him really well today, and I think he can do so in a play-in situation too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll say this. I want to add this. A reason I'm excited for this game Friday is because I'm excited to see how we play Embiid, because throughout the years, it's always changed, kind of, with how the Raptors play Embiid. Like, they'll flash a lot of people. Like, when we had Marc Gasol, it was a lot of let him go one-on-one and then flash help when he turns his back. And then last year in the playoffs, it was a lot of just like he was pretty dominant out there against us. And in those two games that the Raptors won, they kind of slowed him down a little bit. But overall, in the grand scheme of things,
wait, they slowed him down at the expense of Tyrese Maxey torching us, which sucked.
No, obviously, yeah.
About that.
They tried, but in those two games they won, I would say the Raptors, the two games they won, I thought they played solid defense on them. They were kind of. It was after Nick Nurse was complaining about the officiating, and then we got every call and they didn't call anything when we were whacking him, and then Game 6 obviously happened. But now I'm interested to see how we play him with Pirtle and how Nick uses him. I feel like that's a big point to the game Friday, and I'm very interested to see that.
Yeah, definitely. I think from everything we've seen from Nick Nurse and how he guards these guys, it's going to be the other Philadelphia 76ers who are going to have to beat the Raptors, which I think is what Nick Nurse wants to do. And he probably feels like the Raptors have a better chance that way, right? Whether it's a playoff series or if it's a one-off in the regular season. Who knows? We may see Tyrese Maxey turn into, a Hall of Famer overnight again. So.
Whatever happens with Embiid, I don't think we can beat Philly like we have to shoot better, right? I don't think you can beat Philly shooting 24% from three.
No, of course not.
You can't rely on, a plus 17 fast break difference or a positive rebounding differential. You'll have to play even in all those categories, and then you also have to shoot three. So, the approach towards Miami versus Cleveland, the way you win these types of games is very, very different, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to add, guys, that we want to end it off before we end it here? This was probably one of the fastest 40 minutes I think we've done on this show. I didn't even know, honestly. I would have thought it was 20, but anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think the Raptors are entertaining to watch again. They're fun to watch again. We went through a part of the season where they were kind of torrid or horrid, I should say, not torrid. I'm glad the team is gelling, and love the Pirtle signing, and I love Fred VanVleet's finishing at the rim. I think he's improved there big time. That was to be a big criticism of him, right? Can't finish at the rim. I think he's gotten smarter about that. So yeah, there's a lot to like about how the Raptors are playing, and I'm super excited about the postseason.
Yeah, the next 4 teams, like we mentioned before, starting on Friday night with Philly, and then on Sunday and Tuesday versus the Hornets, and then next Wednesday and Friday versus the Celtics, both games in Boston, might I add, and then finishing off the season in Scotiabank Arena versus the Milwaukee Bucks. You would hope, right, if anyone here is an NFL fan, I know Keon is, you would hope the Milwaukee Bucks just start sitting everybody in that final game, like NFL teams do sometimes in the final week of the season. Maybe Giannis gets rest in that game. Maybe the Raptors, can take advantage. We'll see. But it's going to be a tough stretch run for the last six games of the season. Like I said, 6 games. It's going to be tough. We'll see. I'm excited. Before you guys leave us tonight, We need you all to subscribe to the Raptors Republic YouTube, as well as our podcast channel, The Rapcast. This was the wrap up, your official Raptors Republic post-game live show, where tonight your Raptors defeated the Miami Heat 106-92, bringing the Raptors record to a perfectly even 38 wins and 38 losses on the NBA season. They are now 12-8 in their last 20 games, 26-14 at home. Live show produced by Keon Haddad, your co-host. And that was it for myself, Sahal Abdi, and Zohar Siddiqui. We'll see you guys all on Friday night as the Raptors take on the Philadelphia 76ers. In the city of brotherly love. We'll see you guys hopefully. Like I said, Friday night. It's going to be a fun game. Philly games for me are maybe not the most aesthetically pleasing games to watch. It's very physical.
I might be there on Friday.
Okay.
It's a little pricey, but we'll see what we can do here.
Definitely not as pricey as Scotiabank Arena games.
No.
We loved having each and every one of you guys spend time with us on this Tuesday night. Enjoy the win. We'll see you guys all next time on Wrap Up Live. Take care.